Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Conscious Reality Conversations with me, Rashmi, guiding you each week and talking you through with my hard hitting life experiences about spirituality, awakening, healing, food, fitness, consistency, discipline, grief, trauma, and pain, and how I got to be the person I am today and help you be exactly where you need to be. You can catch this podcast every Monday at 7 p.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Hi, everyone. Welcome back after a fortnight to episode 6 of Conscious Reality Conversation with me, Rashmi. Well, these conversations will now be a fortnight instead of every week, as your girl is very busy with life, engaging with so much happening in this moment. So, being fair to what I do and believe in. So, in this week's episode, I have a deep thought to speak about grief. Such a heavy word, isn't it? And I personally feel grief, especially around this time of the year, when it's the festive time beginnings, missing family, especially around this time when it's birthdays. It's my birthday and my parents' birthday following up. As for those who aren't aware that I lost both my parents, I lost my mom in 2023 last year in August and my dad in June 2017. So reminiscing those memories around festive time always brings up those amazing moments which I spent with them. You know, it's always a subconscious memory now, but that memory is full of grief. So today I dedicate this podcast to those who have lost a parent or both, as their name with their identity is always etched on our soul. Isn't it? You know, speaking about grief, there is one such specific memory which sits in the seat of my soul yet is the time around my birthday in December. So, as a kid, and even up to this moment or date, I'm that woman who always has her inner child alive and ticking, yet, to be honest, and who is sorely excited about her birthdays days prior to its actual date. It's like asking my parents, my friends, how are we going to celebrate it? And I plan each day a week prior with some fun and celebrations to indulge in. That's kind of been a childhood habit. But in 2017, when I lost my father, his birthday actually being exactly a week prior to mine. Mine is 1st December and his is 24th November. I remember having this ritual of celebrating my birthday with his birthday with a glass or two of maybe a wine or a scotch. And after I lost him, I drowned myself around that time for almost 2 or 3 years, I recall, with just drinking every single day of that week in his memory. You know how it is that grief kind of engulfs you. And these overwhelming feelings of grief were coming up constantly, and I didn't have that coping mechanism to it. So I kept drinking more and more. And my dad and me, we always had this special bond. And losing him was like actually a loss of self in some way. I lost my grandparents early on. Well, I do have cousins and family, but most of them are far away. So I do feel this massive amount of, maybe you can call it feeling alone or loneliness. Most times, which is filled with grief and self empathy. But that's just sometimes, because not all the time. We all have our days. Remember, emotions are temporary. It's just those some parts of us which feels disconnected with ourselves as we constantly wanting the need to feel connected to source and others. So, this is what I've learned along the way. And that feeling was that it would always pop up around this time of the year, trying to not avoid it, but also not trying to face it. Go out, be away, avoid any feeling and try to feel numb, kind of suppress it, let it just go under the carpet. But deep inside, that was showing me a part of me inside that had lost herself. There's always a message, is what I always feel. And hear me out on this when I say that grief is actually real. And when you conscious and when you experience it, it's just a way of redirecting you back to yourself. It's like, why are you feeling disconnected, Rashmi? Why are you feeling this emptiness? It's like a self-pity, like you got no friends, no family around you. Wow, 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 what do? I'm alone. I feel lonely. I would wake up at random hours and sit across my parents' photo, holding it and just asking, why did you leave me by myself. I felt that life is so pointless. I feel sad and lonely. Again, it's just one of those days. And sometimes, grief it's like a ghost. It actually is there, and you wouldn't never ever know it unless you actually look at that ghost eye to eye and face to face and realize what's happening and make it aware to your conscious. And once you have that awakening, like I did, I've had two Kundalini awakenings, that too twice, like I mentioned, you feel even more lonely, as you see life through a higher dimension goggles, which looks so different from the third dimension world. You shift friends. Don't get me wrong, you do have some friends from your past, but most of them kind of filter out. You spend more time with yourself. You take this huge 180-degree shift, seeing life through a different lens, and then you need to be around people who can match that vibration. You know how it is when you're levitating at a 5D or a 6D consciousness, it's difficult to relate to people in 3D world. Actually, it's also in a way a deep realization what we hate in our life from our heart. In Kundalini, that energy that lies inside of me, it is to see that to be good, to be alone, and to spend time by yourself is absolutely okay. Okay, there's no problem with that. But the whole point of this life and soul journey is to experience love and community, isn't it? Now, we all are conscious. We all are tiny bits and the same strand of consciousness. We are made to believe that we are separate, but honestly, we truly are not. And actually, this is where it gets fuzzy. People are like, I can't elevate to certain people, da da da, I can't relate to them. But listen, you have to find joy in every single moment when you're around people. Tap into that energy flow. I've had long moments of these, feeling sorry for myself, where grief took over that part of me. But that normal, it's very, very normal. And we need to understand that aspects actually help us evolve and grow, because we need to see the bigger picture of what life actually is. Our consciousness can never be destroyed or killed, as we are infinite beings. And this is where I had to rewire my conscious mind, even when these deep emotions of grief, pain, loneliness, and maybe some sort of old trauma were used to completely rise up from nowhere. I had to constantly remind myself that we are not our thoughts, but the space between our thought, the mind, the ego, because all of these aspects are illusionary. It's the noise, that shitty noise in our head. But we do so many things in life to louden that shitty voice, don't we? We drink, we smoke, we move. We're dysregulating our nervous system constantly. We're constantly watching TV, we're on our phones, we're doing unnecessary shopping, we are working nonstop. And you know what? That voice even gets more louder. So when I get into that grief mode, I actually regulate myself by telling that my thoughts and feelings are merely a description of the past, and that how we avoid the same patterns from wounding, because we truly believe that we are our thoughts and feelings, don't we? We all feel that we are our thoughts, we are our feelings. Thoughts are the language of the mind and feelings are the language of the body. And what comes out is an emotion out of it. Your emotion is your energy in motion. But in reality, we are just the observer of it. In actual consciousness, in pure levitating state, it's actually the unconscious things and words we tell ourselves is what we need to pay attention to. And that's how we can put an end to this. When we consciously aware about our doings, it actually helps us sail through the other threshold of grief, as a lot of us are yet living in this unconscious state of being. Like, just say, for example, me. I know my mom died last year, my dad died. Look at where I am in my personal life, all by myself. But wait, hang on. Hold on. Look, Rashmi, you are choosing to feel this way. You're choosing to be in that suffering of that pain. You are choosing that grief, which is not a choice, but a reality in which you cannot even be participating in, because it's got nothing to do with exactly what happened. Life happens for us, not to us. I know you'll never get them back. That's something I have to constantly tell myself. But hold on a minute. Can we tap into that beautiful fluid feeling of the heart chakra being open, tapping into that playful inner child, carefree, creative space of just purity? I just love that. And for those listening to this, I know it's hard when you're stuck in it, and I get it, I understand. But we can't live in our heads forever, guys. If you live in your head most times, you are so unbalanced on your chakras, as you are operating from a very low frequency, especially the three lower chakras, which are of survival, fear, trauma, high cortisol levels. And that is when the ego kicks off. We are unconsciously creating a life of misery and suffering due to our past, where we still have the power to stop that. You guys must be wondering, although this podcast is about grief, which it actually is, I just want you to understand that I don't want you to suffer in grief anymore. Any kind of grief you guys are in. It's hard, it's painful, and I know it's a very heart stabbing feeling. But listen, when you live with compassion and love through that fluidity of your heart space, say yes to self, and also know that you deserve that love and connection. That is where you feel the color of your ego fading, and you accept self and people for who they truly are. And it's possible to achieve that by staying out of the past and fully being in this present moment with your heart wide open. So, again, we all have grief because we have a past. We all go through a lot of shitty things in our life, and that becomes a part of our existence. Well, what do we choose to do? If we choose to dwell in it and have self pity and feel self loaded with it, well, then that's where you're going to be in your three lower chakras, not rising to your heart space and not fully living to your divine consciousness and not tapping your higher self. And the other choice is that you stay true to yourself, live here, right now, where your heart is flowing with self love, accept what is and as it is. Because the only change you want to experience is the change you choose to be. Signing off with love, light, and a big smile. I love you guys. Stay true to yourself, and up until the next time, ciao.